Your shower didn't stay there because it earned your trust. It stayed there because you stopped questioning it a long time ago. Day after day, you reached for the same product, followed the same routine, repeated the same motion, and never once stopped to ask what was actually touching your scalp. The shampoo industry depends on that silence. It depends on routine. It depends on the uncomfortable truth that most people would rather blame stress, age, or genetics than admit they may have been slowly damaging themselves with something they willingly bought. These companies don't need to lie loudly, they only need to stay familiar. They rely on your exhaustion, your busy mornings, your belief that if something were truly harmful, it would already be banned. But it wasn't banned, it was optimized. Optimized to sit just below the level of outrage. Optimized to cause damage slowly enough that you never connect cause and effect. Optimized to make you feel like the problem is you. Hair thinning becomes normal. Scalp irritation becomes sensitive skin. Hair loss becomes just getting older. And while you quietly adjust your expectations, billion-dollar brands quietly adjust their profits. This is not an accident. This is a system that learned how to harm without being noticed. Number 7, Pantene. Pantene didn't become a household name because it healed hair. It became a household name because it made hair look good long enough for you to trust it. The orange bottle carries decades of authority, passed down from mothers to daughters, reinforced by commercials that promised science, strength, and care. But what Pantene actually does is coat your hair in silicone so thick, it creates the illusion of health while starving your scalp underneath. Dimethicone is not nourishment. It is a sealant. It wraps each strand in plastic, blocking moisture, blocking oxygen, blocking natural repair. The shine you see is reflection, not health. The smoothness you feel is coating, not strength. Over time, that coating builds up, layer after layer, until follicles begin to suffocate. Hair doesn't suddenly fall out because it's weak. It falls out because it can no longer survive. Dermatologists have watched this pattern repeat again and again. Heavy buildup, dull texture, increased shedding, thinning around the crown and hairline. And still, Pantene never warns you. It never tells you that the same ingredient making your hair feel amazing today may be the reason it looks lifeless months later. Instead, it lets you blame yourself. It lets you assume it's stress, hormones, age. It lets you feel embarrassed while continuing to sell you the same bottle. 50 years of trust didn't make Pantene safe. It made it untouchable. And that is the most dangerous position any product can hold. Number 6. Herbal essences. Herbal essences sold fantasy, wrapped in green packaging and floral language, convincing you that nature itself had been bottled for your shower. The commercials weren't about cleanliness, they were about escape. Wild hair, rainforest imagery, the idea that this shampoo was closer to the earth than chemistry. And that is exactly why the betrayal cut deeper. Because behind the word biorenew, behind the botanical imagery, sat a preservative that releases formaldehyde over time. Formaldehyde, a chemical classified as a known human carcinogen, not a trace contaminant, not an accident, a deliberate ingredient choice. When lawsuits began surfacing, women didn't complain about dryness or frizz. They reported bald patches, chemical burns, scalp blistering so severe it required medical treatment. And the most damning part was not the damage itself, but how long it continued after complaints were known. Court records showed warnings came years before any formula changes. That means people were still buying, still trusting, still washing their hair while the company already knew what was happening. Herbal essences didn't just fail to protect consumers. It relied on their belief that natural meant safe, that green meant gentle, that branding could replace scrutiny. Parents used it on children. Women used it daily, believing they were doing something healthy. And when hair began to fall out, the shame kept them quiet. Because who expects poison from something that smells like fruit and flowers? Number 5. Mane and tail mane. Entail was never meant for you, and the fact that it ended up in your shower says more about marketing culture than personal care. This product did not begin in salons or dermatology labs. It began in horse stables, designed for animals with thick, coarse hair built to survive dirt, mud, weather, and neglect. Somewhere along the way, desperation met influence, and a dangerous idea was born. If it works on horses, maybe it will make human hair stronger. That logic ignores biology completely. Human hair is finer, more fragile, and attached to skin that reacts far more sensitively to harsh proteins and alkaline formulas. Misleading entail delivers protein in quantities intended for equine hair shafts, overwhelming human strands and creating what dermatologists call protein overload. Instead of strengthening, the hair becomes stiff, brittle, and prone to snapping. The scalp, operating at a lower pH than the formula was designed for, becomes irritated, inflamed, and unable to regulate itself. Users don't notice immediately. At first, hair feels thick, heavy, almost impressive. Then the breakage begins. Then the texture changes. Then shedding increases. And finally, bald patches appear, where follicles were inflamed for too long. What makes this worse is how proudly people recommended it to each other, passing the damage along through word of mouth, influencers, and beauty hacks. There was no warning label that this shampoo was never designed for your biology. No pause that asked whether animal care products belong on human skin. People blamed themselves again. Overwashing, overbrushing, age, stress. Meanwhile, the product continued selling under the illusion of strength, leaving behind scalps that would never fully recover. Number 4. Head & Shoulders. Head & Shoulders didn't just sell shampoo, it sold relief, and relief is one of the easiest things to exploit. The promise was simple. Flakes disappear, itch stops, problem solved, and at first, it works. Zinc pyrithione suppresses symptoms quickly, calming the visible signs of dandruff and giving users instant confidence. But the formula achieves this by stripping the scalp aggressively, dismantling its natural protective barrier and microbiome in the process. Over time, the scalp forgets how to regulate itself. Oil production becomes chaotic. Inflammation increases. Flakes return stronger than before. This is not failure, it is design. Dermatologists refer to this as rebound dependency, where a product creates the very condition it claims to treat, so users feel forced to keep using it. The tingling sensation people describe as refreshing is irritation. The squeaky clean feeling is damage to the hair cuticle. The bright blue color and medicinal scent mask how harsh the detergents really are. People use Head & Shoulders for years without realizing their scalp is trapped in a cycle it never needed to be in. Stop using it and the flakes explode, reinforcing the belief that the shampoo is necessary, when in reality it is the cause. Children are introduced to it early. Seniors rely on it for decades. No one is told that long-term use weakens the scalp's ability to heal itself. No one is warned that balance was never restored, only suppressed. Head & Shoulders didn't cure dandruff. It monetized it. And it did so by teaching millions of people to mistake dependence for treatment. Number 3. Garnier Fructis. Garnier Fructis never tried to look medical or scientific. It tried to look fun, fresh, and harmless, and that is exactly why it slipped past your defenses. Bright green bottles, tropical fruit imagery, sweet scents that reminded you of vacation and youth, all designed to make you believe this shampoo couldn't possibly be dangerous. But the danger was never in what Garnier showed you, it was in what they didn't have to show you. Hidden behind a single word on the ingredient list, fragrance, sat dozens of undisclosed chemicals protected by law from disclosure. That loophole allowed hormone-disrupting phthalates to exist in a product used daily by adults and children alike. These chemicals don't burn immediately. They don't cause instant reactions. They interfere slowly, quietly, with endocrine function, hormonal balance, and scalp health over time. Users didn't connect mood changes, increased shedding, irritation, or sensitivity to shampoo, because nothing about the bottle suggested risk. Excessive foam created by harsh sulfates gave the illusion of deep cleaning while stripping the scalp of its natural oils. Synthetic dyes added color without function. Petroleum-based ingredients added shine without nourishment. Over time, hair felt coated, heavy, lifeless. Volume disappeared. Breakage increased. And once again, the blame shifted inward. People assumed their bodies were changing, their hair was aging, their lifestyle was the problem. Garnier never corrected them. It continued selling fruit fantasy while the scalp paid the price. Cheap didn't just mean affordable. It meant expendable. And the part that was expendable was you. Number 2, Suave. Suave's positioned itself as the smart choice for people who couldn't afford to experiment. The message was clear: why pay more when this works just as well? That message landed hardest, with seniors on fixed incomes, families stretching every dollar, and anyone taught to prioritize practicality over self-care. What Suave didn't advertise was how aggressively cheap ingredients behave on the scalp. High concentrations of harsh detergents stripped hair down to nothing, leaving it dry, brittle, and fragile. But the real damage came from preservatives that quietly released formaldehyde over time, chemicals linked to hair loss, scalp burns, and long-term irritation. When lawsuits finally surfaced, the stories were disturbingly similar. Sudden shedding, bald patches, burning sensations that wouldn't stop. People didn't just lose hair, they lost trust. Internal documents revealed the company had known for years, while continuing to market these products as strengthening and nourishing. The settlement didn't include an apology. It didn't include accountability. It included silence and continued sales. The shampoo stayed on shelves, the bottles stayed cheap, and consumers were left to connect dots they never should have had to draw themselves. Saving money shouldn't cost you your scalp. But Suave built a business model that depended on people believing they had no better option. Number one, OGX was the most calculated betrayal of all because it didn't target ignorance, it targeted awareness. It went after the consumer who read labels, avoided sulfates, researched ingredients, and wanted to do better. Everything about OGX was designed to signal safety. Earth-toned bottles, words like biotin, collagen, and argan oil, claims of clean beauty wrapped in premium design. And hidden inside was the same formaldehyde-releasing preservative that destroyed trust in cheaper brands. Thousands of consumers reported identical damage, hair shedding in clumps, scalp irritation, bald spots appearing within months. Court documents revealed internal discussions about how to position these preservatives without alarming buyers. That means the deception wasn't accidental. It was strategic. The product felt incredible at first because heavy silicones masked damage, creating shine while weakening structure underneath. By the time people realized what was happening, the damage was already done. Reformulations came quietly, without warning, leaving toxic and clean versions sitting side by side on shelves. Consumers couldn't tell which one they were buying. And once again, the burden of responsibility was placed on the victim. OGX didn't just sell shampoo. It sold reassurance while taking advantage of trust. And that betrayal cuts deeper than any chemical burn. What makes this uncomfortable isn't just the chemicals, it's the realization that none of this was hidden very well. The ingredient lists were always there. The complaints were always filed. The lawsuits didn't come out of nowhere. The warning signs existed long before the damage reached your scalp. But the industry relied on something stronger than secrecy. It relied on your trust, your routine, your belief that personal care products are regulated, tested, and safe by default. These companies didn't need to poison you aggressively. They only needed to poison you slowly enough that you never noticed. They let you blame yourself. They let you assume hair loss was genetic, that irritation was sensitivity, that thinning was aging. They let you normalize damage. And when enough people finally spoke up, settlements were paid quietly, formulas were changed silently, and the bottles stayed on shelves looking exactly the same. No warning labels, no recalls, no accountability. Just new marketing campaigns and the same old trust being exploited again. This is not about fear. This is about responsibility. Because once you know, continuing to ignore it becomes a choice. Your hair doesn't regenerate easily. Your scalp doesn't forget inflammation. Chemical damage doesn't politely reverse itself just because a company reformulates. What you put on your body matters as much as what you put in it. And the shame isn't that you trusted these brands. The shame is that they knew you trusted them and chose profit anyway. If this video made you uncomfortable, that discomfort is earned. It means your awareness is waking up. Go look at your shower shelf. Read the labels slowly. If you see the names we expose, don't finish the bottle. Don't justify the cost. Your health is not something you use up. Share this with someone who still thinks shampoo is harmless. Ask questions. Demand better. Because the most dangerous products aren't the ones that burn instantly. They're the ones that damage you quietly while pretending to care.